It's alive. Hello, everyone. We are here in another episode of Esports 101. Today, my guest is Carolina Murphy. Murphy's correctly?
Murphy, yeah.
Murphy, a market and grow executive with more than 10 years of experience in helping global brands to connect with customers through innovation. She's CMO and CGO at PowerUP by Meta Interactive. So welcome, Carolina. It's a pleasure having you with us. So before you say anything, I would like to thank you again for accepting our conversation and tell us a little bit more about Carolina. Who is Carolina?
Well, I love that you said 10 years of experience because it's actually more like 20. So it makes me feel younger, which is always nice. So about me, well, I've been in marketing and advertising, have worked for, large multinational, small boutique firms. I led one of the first social agencies way back when, always kind of in growth roles and kind of innovation and figuring out what's next. And most recently, I joined the team at Meta4 Interactive, and I head up the Meta4 Games division and the PowerUP team. And PowerUp is, known as the leading native playable experience provider. We call it NPX for UGC platforms. And what we do there is we enable brands to embed interactive storytelling directly into gameplay across top games in Fortnite and Roblox. So not only do we guarantee interaction, but we deliver measurable outcomes and creator-driven scales. And, this is quite a switch from what I'd been doing before. And it really is kind of an innovative space, which I'm really excited to be in. Personally, I'm a mom to a 12-year-old who in my line of work these days is actually my best focus group for any new concepts that come along and stuff like that. I very social. I live just outside of Toronto, and I've been working across North America and globally with different brands for the entirety of my career. My team now is currently based in Montreal, and I work remotely. So you can see that's my backyard behind me. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, nice. And okay, just to keep like chronological things here, we try to do like side by side. Uh, what first attracted you in a market and communication? How you decided that it was going to be like a profession for you?
Well, it actually wasn't. And the fact that you're wearing a Brazil jersey actually talks to what I originally had planned to do coming out of school. So I actually graduated high school early and then wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and spent a while kind of ruminating on where I wanted my career to go. I didn't want to just go to university for the party. I wanted to, go with meaning. And so I did a bunch of interviews and talked to a bunch of people and kind of trying to figure out where my passion led. And I actually wanted to be a sports broadcaster. So obviously with FIFA World Cup on, it's hyper relevant. And so I went to radio and television broadcasting production school, went through the whole course, loved it. Then I had my first kind of internship post kind of graduation. I was working at an internet television station. Kind of dates myself there, so don't do the math. But it was one of the first internet stations, and I actually got to go and do the Gemini Awards, which is a big kind of local award show where you interview celebrities and all that kind of thing. And I shadowed like a local anchor at one of the major news stations near my home. And I kind of found like it was exciting, but it wasn't really challenging enough for me. And I was like, I felt like it was too much of a repeat process. And you'll notice something if you look at my career, like I like change. I'm not afraid of change. Like I actually enjoy change. I love a challenge, which is why I'm in gaming, and we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, so I kind of re-looked around and I was like, what do I want to do next? And then I kind of fell into PR, and it was kind of an emerging category at the time. Public relations was just kind of a buzzword at the time. There were no there were no programs really in university beyond just marketing and communications, and it was kind of a sidebar. But it kind of brought together my love of broadcast production, telling stories, and also strategy and high level strategy, senior level counsel, all those kinds of things. So that was my next foray. So I decided to go back to school and do a PR degree, one of the first, and did that for a while. I did it while I was working, and one of my first jobs actually out of school was a PR coordinator for Scouts Canada. So you've heard of the Boy Scouts. Well, that was basically, the Canadian version of Scouts Canada. And I helped to actually introduce girls into scouting. We did like a documentary. We kind of revolutionized Apple Day. We did like a bunch of fun things there. And then I kind of outgrew that role, went to a financial services firm where I was director of marketing for everything from capital markets to leasing and management and, real fun stuff. And then it was funny, a girlfriend of mine at the time was working at an advertising agency. There was a PR agency, and she was telling me how, she was overworked and overstressed, and basically she didn't have enough time in the day, and she had like too many projects, and she just never knew what page she was on. And all of the craziness actually sounded awesome to me. And I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And, because I was getting bored in these kind of singular roles. And so I went over to the dark side, as we like to call it on the agency, and decided to go work at an agency. And that started my career in the agency world. So
Really, really, really good. And two things. The first one is like what you said. I think it's amazing because especially for Brazilian people who is watching in Brazil, we are a little bit afraid about changing, And yeah, ever know like if every 15 days I have a meeting with the people who is helping me with the project, and I usually ask like who we want to invite, like the dream inviter. And it was the first time that they asked me, like, say, okay, always ask us, but how about you? And this is something that I say for them, like, for me, anyone who is not from my side, like, for example, I use the example of the guy from Formula One, because I don't know anything about Formula One. I like Formula One, but I don't watch so much like usually men's watch. Uh, and they say I like this change, because I like to learn new things. And you said something that it's really important, especially for people who is watching now. If you want to change it, don't be afraid. Just go, study, of course, do your best, but just go. And you said that you started wanted to be a broadcast. I'm not sure, of course, but usually when you have this dream, it's because you play anything. Have you played anything in the college, in high school? This is why you want to be a broadcaster, or no?
well, I kind of grew up being like daddy's little girl. So, having lived in Canada most of my life, I'm a huge hockey fan. Toronto Maple Leafs, don't fault me for that. But, have always been involved in sports heavily as not only a watcher, but played it. I played competitive volleyball for, beach volleyball, not at a super high level. When I say competitive, it's like
Like a
general
hobby.
competitive.
Yeah, hobby.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, I've always been in. I love sports, right? Like even my son is now a rep player for the local hockey team, and I think sports is such a great community gatherer and uniter. And even throughout the course of my career, I've always worked. Like I've worked with the NHL, I've worked with the CFL, I've worked with the NFL. I've worked with national rugby associations. I've worked with the Olympics, and I've always kind of worked with them just because of my love and passion for sports in general. And that's, I think, why I kind of gravitated towards wanting to be a sportscaster. The other thing was, like I said, I'm not afraid of change. And back when I was thinking about being a sportscaster, there were like zero women in sportscasting. So for me, that would have, been an achievement or something that I could kind of set my sights on. It would be a little bit different. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where that came from, both my passion and love for it, but also just trying something new and breaking down some barriers.
Nice, really nice. And in the last question, you told about the agencies that you worked. If I'm not crazy, it was 4 agencies. What attracted you in that time, like early in your career, to work in an agency?
Well, for me, it was the variety. I think, I worked client side for the first 5 years of my career, and I would get bored very quickly. And I knew my resume was going to start to look really bad if I kept, changing jobs every
Yeah.
couple of months or every year. So when I saw friends that, I met friends that worked in the agency world and all the pain points that they had around agency life, I actually craved, right? Like the short deadlines, the high pressure, the variety of clients, agency is hard work and they call it the dark side, but the truth of the matter is you will get experiences there that you won't get anywhere, right? Like I've gone to South Africa with my bio oil client. I went to London and launched Brand Canada at the World Travel Market. I've worked with celebrities, both A-list and B-list. I've had dinners with the chief of police. I hosted the prime minister. Like there's experiences that you get through agency that you really can't get at a lot of places. And the variety was what really attracted me. And for me, it was always like, what agency is doing the most innovative work, right? Like what, really what is, it's at the heart of it is it good work that the agency is doing? And that was always something, I've felt is very important. No matter what agency I went to, they've got to do great work and have great clients. And as I started to, launch my own agencies or run my own agencies or become partners at agencies, that was always, just a requirement that I would bring forward with my teams. And I'd be like, I'm not going to build the agency around the clients that we have, but I'm going to build it around the clients that we want. And I had clients, that would follow me from agency to agency for 15 years because I was just so passionate about their work, and was excited to work with them.
Uh, you are talking, but I stopped in a part that you are talking about your experiences, and you are talking about things that everyone dreams, and you talk like, hey, I did that, I didn't know. And okay, I have to ask, sorry, it's not part of our podcast, but I have to ask, tell me one experience that you said like, oh, it was like a dream for you, and you have done, because you told a lot of things that I said like, oh my god, I really want to do something like that one day. Tell me a little one experience that you said like, oh, this was like one of the best of my career.
Oh, that's a tough one. There's been like a lot of them. I'd say like one of my most memorable and favorite was going to South Africa. Right, it's a beautiful country, and we went there and we did. It was for Bio Oil, which was my client at the time, and we went there on kind of what's known as a familiarization trip. So we went and visited their R&D labs. We went and sat and had meetings with their marketing team and stuff, and BioOil was very committed to corporate service responsibility, and part of their initiative and part of what BioOil was about. They did a lot of fundraising, and they give parts of their proceeds to the Children's Hospital in South Africa. And what it is in South Africa, a lot of the less wealthy families live in shanties, and they heat their dwellings by these big, you know, water pots. And what happens is a lot of the children, especially when they're toddlers, they'll go up and grab the edge of it and pour it. And some of these kids end up with, third degree burns over 90% of their body. And this was kind of an initiative for them. And I'll just remember being there and having like a very emotional moment with the clients. And I actually had to step out of the room at one point when we visited the hospital. And just, it overall was a life-changing experience. Not only did I go to, South Africa on my own, which was a very, personal growth moment, but seeing that kind of commitment from a client that didn't really need to was really meaningful too. And it kind of just solidified in my mind that I want to work with good people and good clients. And that's been something I've kind of always taken forward from. It's like anybody can make a dollar and everything, but it's like, well, what do you do with those dollars? And then, any client can be a client, but what are the clients that one are going to respect you? And then one, you're going to be okay when they call you at 7 o'clock at night because they're almost like your friends, right? Like you build a relationship with them over time. And that's what happened with a lot of my clients. Like I would call them or they would call me. And even years later, if we weren't working together, we'd get together for a dinner or whatnot, or always be there to kind of support each other. So, but overall, from an experience standpoint, I would say that was probably one of the biggest. And it's funny, you would think it would be like the celebrity moment when I was at this big party or at these things, but it wasn't, because for me, it was more about that kind of personal growth and how I could take that into my future career.
Yeah, I imagine like, but for I know that for you it was something more personal, like you are growing. But I can say because I am one of them. A lot of people want that experiences, and in that period, what was your biggest challenge in that you said, like, because you are working in a lot of agents, so what was your biggest challenge in that time?
Um, for me, the biggest challenge actually was moving from a doer to a leader, right? Like, I think that was the biggest challenge. I had many, mentors say, because I'm a very detail oriented person. I was always like, very, a little bit of a lone soldier. Like, just, I always use the term I get stuff done. I usually use a different word, but I won't do that because we're live in a podcast. Um,
Yeah.
I think you
I
can do
understand. I
that.
understand. I understand. Okay.
So for me, it was moving from, doing everything myself and making sure that it got done to being able to delegate. Right. And then that was probably one of my biggest challenges. And then, as I kind of grew in leadership roles, you know, it it became more inherently natural. I still sometimes get pulled back in because I'm so passionate about what I do and because I choose to work with good clients. I want to make sure that we deliver, but I've done a much better job at kind of setting expectations and being able to, unleash my teams and just support them enough to be able to deliver on what we need. And I mean, frankly, the team that I work with now, I don't even have to micromanage. They're experts in what they do. Like, as from a game developer standpoint, I couldn't even try to micromanage them because they're just amazing at what they do. So it's kind of a dream come true for a leader where I'm just like, yeah, I just let you guys do that. And then I go and have the relationship with the client.
Really nice. And after the agencies, you had the opportunity to work at McCann. It's correctly the pronunciation, McCann. I don't know how to pronounce that.
McCann, yeah, it's a
McCann,
big
McCann.
global agency. Yeah.
Yeah. How was that? How the opportunity come about, and how was that for you?
So it's funny. I have tried to leave the agency world, I don't know how many times. And I always say agency is kind of like a drug to me and I'm addicted. And the reality is every time I try to get out, it pulls me back in. And I was doing some freelance work, and one of my old bosses called me up out of the blue and was like, I'm taking over as president of McCann World Group in Canada, and we're doing a rebrand and we're doing all this stuff, and I need some help with the relaunch and everything. Will you come on like part of a freelance basis? And I said, sure, no problem, I'll come on. Um, so, put together a proposal. I was freelancing at the time. He's like, great, come on. As I got in there, he started throwing more and more stuff my way. So all of a sudden I was leading a 21-person task force on like doing everything from changing the sign on the building to updating the Google Maps, directories and everything, and making sure that everything got done, which was great. So, working on it was part of a global rebrand for McCann overall, and we were rebranding the agency here. I had done it before when I was at DDB, but I played a much less significant role. Here I was kind of leading the initiative. So it was a great experience. And I was brought in for like a 6-month kind of foray. And then, just about a month before my time was up, the CEO came to me and he said, so I know your time's almost up, and now that the rebrand's done and everything, we can't imagine letting you go, and we want you to stay. And I was like, well, I don't want to get back into agency life. Like, I'm done. He's like, well, what if we bring you in as like a growth role? So my role, I've always kind of been in these strategic growth roles, whether it's like immobilizing teams or building sales teams. So I was like, okay, let's talk. So I came in and started, I had a bunch of presidents because I oversaw all of McCann World Group in Canada, so all of their new business development and their strategic growth, and would put together growth plans with them, work with the individual presidents, and then kind of deploy those and just make sure that they were getting delivered on and stuff. So I would participate in the big pitches and everything. And I said, it was funny. I was talking to somebody the other day because one of my old employees called me, and she's like, "I'm thinking of going into a growth role." And I said, okay, well, here's the gist of it. I love it because the short timelines and the pressure and everything, like I excel under it, but it's a very tough role to be in. A lot of rejection, especially if you have to go out and find new business leads. A lot of time pressure, a lot of stress. Like the reality is you're going up against very, very smart people. There's a lot of work that goes into a pitch and a lot of kind of overtime. So it's one of those things where, it's great if you have a team beneath you, but it can be a bit of a challenge. And I don't know. I've always loved it. And like I said, I get excited about it and I'm passionate about it, but you have to have a very thick skin to be able to kind of do it.
I think pressure, it depends on person. Some person like, some people like, some people doesn't, and it's okay. It's part of the life. And you said that about the grow and everything, that it was a lot of pressure for someone who wants to start to work in that position and try to be a better professional. In your opinion, what skills are the most important for them?
It like in growth, particularly.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say people skills number one. Like, I mean,
People
especially
skills.
people skills number
I don't
one.
know this one. Explain
Sorry,
for me.
like just client skills. So like
Okay,
being
okay, okay.
able, yeah, being
I
able,
got it.
just like us, being able to have a open
Conversation.
conversation, being able to, not be afraid to kind of like open up, ask questions, right? Like one of the biggest things is every, I always say like when you're going into a pitch process, and generally like in past jobs that I've had, you'll go into an RFP process where they'll probably narrow it down to like 4 different agencies. Okay, and all of these different agencies have different heads of creative, heads of strategy. They're all super smart, qualified people, right? What
Yes.
it comes down to at the end of the day is the client, who do I want to work with? Very rarely do they buy the work that is in the pitch as is. Like it rarely happens. It does happen, but really it's kind of like they're dating you and they're like, I'm seeing if I even like dating you before I actually marry you and sign a
Yes.
contract. So part of that is, being open and honest, not afraid to have conversations, not afraid to ask questions, not afraid, I always say I like to know enough to be dangerous. Like I don't know everything and nobody expects me to know everything, but I should have the team that should be able to answer their questions. So that for me is always like people skills are the number one thing. Just being able to have conversations, anticipate needs, all of that sort of thing. And the other thing is like, a thick skin, I would say.
uh, you said something that it's really funny for me, just for me. Uh,
Yeah.
I am really open to talk to everything, to do a pitch, but when I am talking about companies and other people, when I have to talk about me, I remember that I went to a podcast that I have talked about me. I'm so much embarrassed. I don't know how to talk because I sometimes I feel that I'm not being humble, but sometimes if I'm not being humble, I cannot talk about myself. I don't know. For me, like if I have to talk about Caroline after the podcast, I can do like a pitch up with 1 hour. But when I have to talk about me, it's so much hard for me. I don't know why, but it's so much hard.
That's a natural human thing. Like if you
Yeah.
think about the hardest thing for anyone to write is their resume, right? Like
Yes.
we're inherently, I wouldn't say everybody, but I would say the majority of people totally underestimate themselves. And that's why it's almost so much better to get someone to write it for you or to talk about you for you, right? Because it's like nobody wants to be that, braggart or that boastful. I had a really hard time learning that. It was only when I started management consulting that I was like, nobody else going to sing my praises. So either I do or like nobody's going to even hear from me, right? So but I was always like in a lot of my growth roles, I was always in the background. So I was always the one, setting the pitch teams up for success, letting them be the ones, be the hero in the room, giving them all the talking points, enabling them, even so much as writing their bios so that they went in, they weren't underselling themselves. But that's why sometimes it's good to have that third party, whether it's writing a resume, whether it's, doing a mock interview with, if you're going for a new job. Because I can tell you, I've helped, I have very successful friends in different roles across different industries and stuff. And I've helped every single one of them with their resume at some point. And part of that was, I would just sit down with them and ask them questions about the resume. And I was very quickly like, you don't do this, you don't do X, you do Y.
Wow.
And they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Right. So it's really easy to do that. I think maybe ChatGPT and some of the AI agents will help with that now. But in the past, we didn't have that.
Yeah, but even for AI, I think like especially I don't know you or maybe it's my superpower, but it's really easy to see when is someone doing AI or not. I don't know if you agree with me. Like it's really easy when I'm not saying about how can I say I'm not saying about the graphics, for example, the cartoons, because cartoons is much easier. But when I see like a post or someone writing, it's so much easy for you understand that it's someone who is really writing, or he just put something in the chat GPT or Gemini or whatever and just copy and paste. So this is why I think I usually to say for people who is working with me that mm, the biggest skill nowadays is not face to face, but is a personal conversation, because nowadays is everything like you add someone in the LinkedIn, they copy and paste
Yeah.
one how can I say one conversation, and you see like he's not interested to talk about with you. It's just something that he learned that he has to do that, and he just does you know and after oh my god, this pronunciation got me. Your last company, you start in a huge Canada, right? What you got attracted or motivated to join the huge Canada?
So whenever I've kind of made a move, it's always been because there's some innovation or some market shift behind it. So like when I moved to Mosaic, I went there to launch a PR digital and social division. It was an experiential company, right? So it was really about carving out a new kind of line of service, which I thought was very cool and a new challenge. When I went to Huge, I actually came there because I was finishing my role at McCann, and one of my old managing directors had heard through the grapevine that I might be leaving McCann and had reached out to me and was like, so I'm in a turnaround situation where we want to turn this business around. It's been stagnant for a couple of years and I need you. Right. And I was like, okay. And I'm they not only needed like to kind of define their story for the market, but also just kind of rejig all their service offerings and how they were going to market. So again, it was quite a challenge. And what I loved about Huge was, they weren't a traditional advertising agency. They were more about digital transformation. So I felt I could learn something and get something, different in my career. So I'm always wanting wherever I go, I want to be able to learn and keep my brain learning and feel like I'm developing new skills, new expertise. I've always been seen as a bit of a generalist. And that's where I get that I know enough to be dangerous because I know enough about production. I know enough about digital. I know enough about all these pieces. I would never claim I'm an expert in all of that, but I am very good at bringing all that together and making it work. So
Nice.
huge, we had gone up against them a couple of times. I had heard their name. They didn't have like a huge, ironically, brand presence. But there was opportunity for growth, and I loved the managing director. I actually he's the one who introduced me to the team I'm with now. Again, so it's one of those things where about great people. I met the team there. I also have I have a very high filter when it comes to like, I only work with good people. I don't want to work with egos. I don't want to, like, whether they're clients or whether they're internally. Like, I've worked with some really bad people in the
Yes.
past, and now I have a choice and I won't do that again. So there were a lot of really good people there, great challenge, and a good client base to build off of and a great client offering. So we went there, we did a little bit of an agency turnaround. We added new service offerings. We had a great track record. We actually became one of the winningest network offices globally out of 13 offices. And that was the combined effort of like me, the managing director, and then we put together just a stellar like pitch team. So everybody because it's not one person, right? It's about the whole collective and how you can bring that to market.
Uh, I'm thinking because, like you said, in the it's because I think because you have like a such good career, you have the opportunity to choose your health, like your mind. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm thinking, how can I ask that question? Uh, you choose like the huge one because your health. So, oh my God, I'm trying to put that in English in a good way. And, what it teaches you, like because I imagine that the less the Mac, how can I say it again? Sorry,
McCann.
Macan. It
Yeah.
was bigger when I say like in the branding, and you change one for a little smaller. What teaches you that? What you learn that you say that? Oh my God, it changed my life.
I mean, I think you take something away from each experience and it's different, right? Like it again, it all depends on the team. So I've worked at, within McCann, we had a very tight knit group that, almost felt like a small boutique. And then, yes, we had different reporting structures and different mandates when it comes to revenue and stuff like that. But we still kept that very tight knit group. I have always said, like, for me, the biggest thing, and even when I went to work at the firm out in California, right? It's like, it's about building that winning team that is going to get you to where you need to be. So when I went to that firm, like the first thing, and I do this whenever I go to any agency, whether I'm management consulting or full time, I get in there and I do a gaps analysis and I look at what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, who are the important people that we're missing. Because again, you can't do it all, right? And I need those important people. So when I went to Envoy at the time, I right away I was like, I need to hire a business strategist, right? Like I need to hire this. I brought in somebody that I had worked with before that I trusted, and she was just a rock star out of the gate. And then I brought in, a CTO because I needed somebody that could be really personable and help me sell some of the more complex, like digital transformations that, I can sell, but they start to ask questions, and very quickly, I'm not a developer, right? So I'm not
Yes.
a CTO, so I don't claim to be. And those aren't questions, but I needed somebody that I could bring into a room and that would be able to be personable and talk to everyone and have those conversations. So it really is about, getting the right people around you. And that's why I always say, because, you're in the trenches with those people, right? Like you want people you can trust. And that's why a lot of people, even, some of my past employees have followed me from agency to agency, or I'll go back and recruit them. Last summer, I was fairly new with the PowerUp team, and we had all these activations happen at once. So I reached out to a bunch of former employees and was like, look, I know this is way above you, but I really need you for like a 3 month. I know you're freelancing and stuff. Like, come in and help me, like, make this a success, because we can't scale it fast enough, right? So again, it was bringing in those people that I trust, and building that core team that made these activations like unbelievable, right? Like I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. So really, it is like, to me, agencies don't build widgets. We're not like a manufacturing company or something. We're not building products. Our product is our people, and the people are the most important.
In Portuguese, I'm going to try to translate. In Portuguese, there is, when you live in a suburb, like when you have like farms and then everyone, they
Yeah.
have an idiom that they say like something like that, but it is bes- behind the best, we turn better ones. It's something
Mhm.
like that. I think this is exactly what you say about working an agency. You don't need to know everything, but you have to have people next to you who knows the things that you don't know. Basically, that.
Exactly. And it's similar. Like I always say, and I say this to my hockey team a lot. It, and there's the old kind of saying that to raise a child takes a village, right? It's the same thing. Like you can't do it on your own. And it's those people that are in your village, or those people that are on your team, that really make you a success, right? So it's important you have that trust, and part of that team is your clients, right? So that's why I always say I want to work with good people. And that's always like when I go through an RFP process, I always say it's kind of dating for me too, because I'm like, do I really want to work with this client if they're this difficult during an RFP process where we're just trying to get to know each other? Imagine what they're going to be like if we're committed. Like, and I fired clients before because when I had that ability to, I was like, you're not going to treat my staff with respect. You're not going to treat me with respect. Well, I don't want to work with you because that's not going to get us to good work. You know.
Oh, this is amazing. I would love to have someone like you in Brazil who defends your staff. In Brazil, of course, I have worked with a lot of amazing people, but it's hard to find someone who fight a client because they don't treat well your staff. But let's talk about good things. Next step, it was Envoy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And how was that? What attracted you? Why you changed it?
So Envoy, it was funny. So we did a great turnaround at Huge, and I was working with this old managing director. We had, met our new. We actually doubled in size. We tripled our staff. Like we had tremendous growth, right? And he basically told me, take the next 4 months off, pretty much, right? He's like, slow down, take it easy. And at the same time, I was being recruited by this firm out of Southern California. And they came to me, and I had kind of set up the team and stuff. And it was kind of, it would be more of maintain and keep going versus, opportunity for innovation. Like we launched a new CRM division, we had built out the team, all of those kinds of things. So it would have been more like, let's maintain the status quo versus let's innovate or build on. So when this team came to me, they were in, they needed help with a rebrand. They had to bring all these different agencies together. It was a very big kind of ask that they were looking to do. It was a great big challenge, and it was North American in scale, and it was just a new challenge. And well, they offered me some decent money. I'm not going to lie, right?
Especially
Because
because you have a son, you have to live, you have to pay count.
and it was a way to get, it was a California firm, but we had an office in Irvine, we had one in San Diego, and we had one in Chicago. And then I would have been the first kind of remote office here in Canada. But it really had a lot of upside and a lot of potential. And, they wanted to bring me on as an actual partner. And it's huge because it's part of a network, and that wasn't an opportunity. So them bringing me on as a partner, I was like, finally, I'm going to build something in collaboration with someone else versus building something for the man, as they like to say, right?
Yeah. And you have worked in Envoy with two companies, but I'm going to ask the first one because the second one I'm going to do a hook for a gaming. I think you imagine which one I'm talking. But you worked with Nike. I think it is my dream company. How was that to work with Nike? If it's not the biggest company like for sports, is one of that.
So I've worked with Nike a couple of times over the course of my career. Nike is a fantastic client to work with, and the fact that they're always looking to break new ground, do something innovative. It's it's a privilege to work with Nike. Like everyone knows that. But I always say, while it's great to work with Nike, there's always, like, from a business builder standpoint, there's always an agency biting at your feet, right? Like, it's if you work for Coca-Cola, there's always an agency, there's always that competition. You're always, sometimes there's a pool of agencies. So it is a very high stress. One of the strategies that I've used from a strategic growth perspective have always been around tier 2 and tier 3 brands. So instead of a Coca-Cola, it might be a Canada Dry Mott's. Instead of a Nike, it might be a Tiva shoes or something, right? So the other thing is, like, B2B businesses, like, they're some of the best clients, right? Like, to an agency that wants to work with Nike, they're like, do I really want to work with a SaaS company? But you can do some amazing stuff still, right? So for me, it's all about, again, it goes back to the clients. And I'll never say it was not a good thing to work with Nike, because working with Nike obviously gives you tons of privileges and anybody wants to do it. But I would say that there's some of my favorite clients over the years were not Nike, right?
I'm not going to ask, but you you said that. Can you say one that you love it to work? One client that you say like, oh, it was amazing work with him. If you don't want to say it, that's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I'll say Canada Dry Mott's was one of the best. We did some amazing stuff with them. We did the Mott's Clamato Caesar. We claimed Caesar Day in Calgary. We actually we did we went to the Olympics with them. Like, we did some really amazing stuff, and they were willing to kind of like push the needle. We did the Caesar Embassy in Vancouver around the Olympics, which was really, really cool. They were just a great client, like, would work with us and do things. I also worked with Diageo for a number of years, and obviously working in alcohol is always fun. But again, they were another one that they weren't the Labatt's of the world or the Molson Coolers of the world. They're more a distributor, but the stuff that we got to do with Smirnoff Ice and Crown Royal and the just amazing events that we got to do were super cool, and they were great clients to work with. They were very they would bring you in as part of their team, which I always find is the best way, right? Like, versus keeping you at arm's length, but making you feel like you're a true part of the team. So you're there finding opportunities along the way.
The other company I told you that I like it, it's HyperX, and I'm going to use the hook for you because now you are working for PowerUp and with gaming. HyperX, it was the first company worked with gaming, or no? You have already worked with other companies for gaming. How was that?
So I have worked in gaming before, a couple of times, because, just dabbling and stuff like that. This is the first time I've worked directly in gaming. And I thought I knew the gaming space before I came to this team. I was quickly corrected on multiple occasions. I've since been to my first gaming conference, and that was a real eye opener for sure. It's funny. I used to think I was a gamer, but like my Mario Brothers days and my, the Switch days and Lego games and everything don't even compare to the world of gaming. Like, it is a beast unto itself. And there are so many interesting people and facets to the industry that I just never even knew about until I joined this team. And that was part of the reason I wanted to join this team, because not only were we doing something new and innovative in the media space, but we're creating like new businesses and helping to fuel the creator economy through what we're doing at the PowerUp team. So
Before the question, which is a real question, I imagine it. I'm just guessing because it happens with me all the time. Now I have a girl which is 17 years old, and I imagine that I knew about gaming, but all the time that I talk to her, I learned something about gaming that I have never had an opportunity to learn. Your son prefers you working in esports, like a gaming, or a traditional sports? Or better,
uh,
have you worked in a company that your son say like, "Mom, stay there, stay there"?
I always say my son finally thinks my job is cool. Like you said before, you're like, wow, you've had so many cool experiences. Like my
Yeah.
son knows about all of those. You know what got him the most excited? When I told him I was doing a campaign with Mr. Beast. Then all of a sudden he was like, okay, now I'm interested.
No, but are you
Um,
crazy? Everyone is going to say that's cool, even me. It's Mr. Beast. He's like the biggest one in YouTube.
well, I know, but I was like, and I did know he was a big influencer. Obviously, I'm in market. I'd have to be hiding under a rock to know that. But I mean, to him, it was just like, he'd never like I think I have a pretty cool job, right? Like I work in gaming, I work with all these creators, like it's pretty cool. But it really didn't trigger with him. Like he kind of got excited when we were doing the Takis activation and I was showing him like these exploding chip bags and stuff. He's like, Mom, this is really cool. And I'd love to do that. And he's like, but make sure the tuckies don't fly too high so that people can see where I'm at and stuff, right? That's what I mean by he's like my little focus group. So he was kind of excited. And he's like, let me know when it's in field and I'll play it and stuff like that. But when I said I was going to work with Mr. Beast, I was like, actually, you know who was even more excited was my sister. My sister, because she had watched the Beast games and like this was a bonding moment that she has with her son. And I was like, I'm going to work with Mr. Beast. All of a sudden, she took an interest in what I was doing. So, yes, he is like one of the world's biggest influence. He's fantastic. And they were fantastic. Beast Productions was amazing to work with. I will say that. And the whole campaign, like Water Aid of America, who kind of led the initiative, working with Mr. B's team, and were the ones who kind of brought us on to kind of engage the gaming community. Because the reality was when they were first doing this campaign, they wanted all the creators. And the gaming community is very, specifically in the UGC space, is very kind of segregated from the rest of kind of creators, right? Like
Yeah.
they're developers first. I always say they're not like a typical creator. They're actually artists. Like they create art, right, in these UGC spaces. And the reason they're so successful is because they're artists. So they weren't kind of getting on side with the campaign because it was a struggle for them. So what we said was, let's give them a really easy way to get involved. And Mr. Beast loved the idea, like their team loved the idea, WaterAid loved the idea, and it worked really well because it gave them a really easy entry point to get involved. But
Nice, but I 100% agree with him. If you come to me and say that you are going to work with Mr. Beast, for me in Portuguese you usually to say that you zero the life. Zero the life is there is no more goals for you you to do in your life. You can just retire and that's okay. That's okay.
so you're saying I can retire? Amazing.
Yeah, no, it's like okay, you have done everything that you need from your life. Uh,
Yeah, it's
and
pretty
the
awesome.
and the part of our podcast is explain about companies. What Meta is? Can you explain a little bit about Meta? What you do there? How is the environment of Meta basically?
Yeah, so Meta4 Interactive was founded probably about 20 years ago. They created, award-winning games like Papa and Yo-Yo. They created one of the first VR time machines. They actually created the Transformers franchise, and they're an innovation partner with Disney. So they created ESPN Football Island and NBA Basketball Island with Disney, and we're doing other kind of works with some of their studio partners. And then, Meta4 Games is part of Meta4 Interactive. So, born from the fact that not everybody has massive budgets, and we wanted something that was accessible to all brands. So, what we do different is we do metaverse activations, and we call them native playable experiences because, unlike billboard in a game or a traditional ad in a game, these are playable brand moments. So they, if somebody walks by and chooses not to interact, the client doesn't pay for it. And it's not passive consumption, it's true engagement. Like our activations will last anywhere from 15 seconds to 2 minutes. And we see repeat play because creators love them and gamers love them. And we're seeing, gamers come back anywhere from 3 times to 10 times to just overplay these experiences. And part of that is every, meaningful interaction that we have, we reward the players, which is where the name PowerUp came from. So they don't feel like they've been cheated. And because we like to say that, at PowerUp, we don't disrupt play, we power it. And, the truth of the matter is old rules of marketing are broken. And, in this world of skip ad buttons, passive consumption of YouTube ads, you just don't know if they're getting up and walking away or second screen scrolling, if they're actually playing it. And, today it's not about impressions, but the most valuable currency in marketing today is about attention and the right kind of attention. And part of why I joined this team is today that attention has moved inside of these, sprawling social hyperactive worlds, like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, any of these UGC, just they're growing ecosystems and growing like faster than anything. But the truth is, you can't just buy your way into these spaces, right? Because the gamer doesn't want their gameplay to be interrupted, and the creators don't want you to take them anywhere or disrupt their gameplay. So we believe that the brand should be a feature and a plus up and elevate the play versus disrupt it. So we won't do billboards that will get ignored. We won't just drop a logo in. It's got to be about a branded moment that has meaningful impact, and we can do that better than anybody because we were born from that AAA DNA development partner. Like my team will keep me honest. I can say we can do this, and they're like, absolutely we can't, because the gamer will not like it or the creator won't like it. Creators love working with us because we make their job super simple. We not only help them to monetize their worlds or maps or islands or whatever they're spending their artistry on creating. So we help them to monetize it. We ask very little of them. We help them integrate. We do all of the development and everything, deal with all of the, headaches with the clients, the contracts, the client reporting, all of that stuff. And all they have to do is like basically open up their home to us to put these experiences. They trust us because they know we're not going to break their gameplay and we're not going to take their people out of their game. So their, other revenue streams aren't going to be impacted. And the truth of the matter is we just really make it easy for them to continue to be what they are at the heart of what they are, and that's their artists. I see them as artists. Like I could never create a game, but I could tell them how to market in it. So that's why together we make a really good combo.
A lot of things that you said. So the first one about the hyperactivity people nowadays, I think everything is changing nowadays. I don't know if there is something like that in Canada. I think so. There is a new league. The name is Kings League. I don't know if you saw that from Piquet. He got a soccer, and he make like a gamification in soccer. It's huge here in Brazil because he got like
Mhm.
the generation Z and Alpha, because he understand that this generation couldn't watch a normal game, like the whole game, because it's, let's say, I think the soccer is the only one you can draw. It's like 45 minutes, and there are sometimes that there is no goal, and he understand that and make a gamification about that. So there is a card that you change the way of you play. There is a lot of things that makes more interesting. And I think everything is changing nowadays because of this generation. When I say the generation, not I'm not saying like the generation by age, but even me, like I feel that even me, it's a little bit harder for you get focused because now you have a lot of things for you see, you know. So it's amazing. And you have been working in a lot of industries. When I say a lot of industries, like a lot of industries. That is something that you feel that it's totally different working in gaming, or it's kind of the same.
I mean, I'd say because of my role, which was kind of, for the last probably 15 years, has been more senior advisory roles, like I've had to be an expert, a little bit of an expert in multiple industries, right? So I'd say a lot of the skill set that I've developed over the years is very transferable to the gaming industry. Could I would I love to give up my job tomorrow and create an island where I could make $1 million a month? And like, absolutely. Could I? Probably not. Like when I say these guys are artists, they are artists. When I say guys, but guys, girls, these
No,
developers,
no,
these
I know, I know, I know.
yeah, like they know their gamer better than anyone else. They do it. I have to hold myself back on a daily basis from telling my son to drop out of school and just become a developer because like it's crazy, right? Like the what they do. But I keep telling him, don't worry, you got a couple more years and then you can do it if it's still around. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where I am not an expert in gaming. I don't claim to be an expert in gaming. Do I dabble in gaming? I can, if you I think you have to have a passion for it because you're surrounded by gamers every
Yeah.
day. But I will tell you this, one thing I have realized just from being at my gaming conference is a lot of the people in gaming are super nice. Like, everybody like I'm talking like millionaire, multi-millionaire founders walking around in their jeans and t-shirts and like there's no ego. It's a very open, welcoming community. Everyone's, um I they're great people, which is why I kind of bought in full time, right? Because I was here for a short time, not a long time. And then I started working with the team, and they're fantastic people. And, it's an innovative industry. It's continually growing. There's so much opportunity for anybody that wants to get into. There's so much opportunity in gaming, whether it's creator side, whether it's management side, whether it's marketing. There's tons of opportunity. Development. Um,
Uh, I, 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 I don't know about other industries because I think my whole life it was in gaming. But one thing that I feel in gaming, uh, especially in my area, like esports, like the competition, is like
yeah.
people are more receptive because it's starting. They are more open to talk, to learn, or to teach. In the case, for example, of this podcast, I don't feel that other industries, like for example, soccer, I feel that if I have to do something like I'm doing right now in soccer, it was going to be so much harder because it's going to be much harder to get someone to talk about because they are less receptive. It's not like they are not receptive, they are not affordable, I would say that, but it's harder.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the community. Everybody wants to help each other out. Like even going to this gaming conference, they're all about like, how can I help you? How can I help you? Like they're all like they're very supportive of each other where a lot of other industries it's like keep your cards close, like don't let anybody see what you have planned next, where in the gaming community they're like, we've got a new development, here's how you can use it in your game, right? Like it is a close knit community even though it's so large, but it's not as competitive yet. Who knows, right?
Yeah, no, I'm saying right now, of course,
Yeah,
right now, right
let's
now.
hope we can keep it that way because it's very nice and refreshing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, you are going to our last question. I think you know the question. It's We usually make a joke that is a golden question, which is if you have to give one advice for someone who is starting a career, in your case in marketing or in grow, what advice you would give for this person?
Somebody that wants to get into the industry.
Yeah.
So my biggest piece of advice that I would give to anybody interested in the interview or in the in the industry is to find those people that you want to be. This is what I did, right? So, like, find them, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's like through AI or whatever. Find those people that you could see yourself being in 5 to 10 years, or is kind of the people that you look up to, and have a coffee with them and start to build your network. It is all about network. And it is all about really understanding what they do. And I will say that, even especially if you're young and just starting out, reaching out to these senior executives, there's very few that will say no to you, right? Like if you have an inherent interest and you make it about them. You don't need a big pitch or anything. It's just like, I admire what you do. I would love to learn more about how I can get there. Everybody who's ever started out somewhere at the bottom and climbed their way to the top, or had an easy ride or a hard ride, we all want to give back, or we all should give back. I never say no to people, and maybe I shouldn't say that too loud, but I would never say no, because it's like, if you inherently are interested, reach out to those people, have a coffee, and ask the questions about what you need to do. You don't need to listen to a podcast. Like, it's better to hear it direct from the person. Not
You
to
are
say you
you are
shouldn't
saying
listen to
that you are
podcasts.
saying that they don't have to watch my podcast. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Uh,
No, I'm
so,
saying, like, you
no,
don't
no,
have to
I
wait for it
understand.
to be
I'm just doing.
revealed in a podcast. But they never would have got that advice if they didn't listen to your podcast,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Uh, so thank you very much, Caroline. It was a pleasure to have you with us. It was amazing, a lot of insights. We usually give you some time that if you want, say where they can find you, say about your company or anything.
Yeah, so anybody that's interested in kind of reaching out, either hit me up on LinkedIn. Happy to have a virtual coffee with you, um, you know, um, and introduce you to people if you want. Anybody that's interested in PowerUp or learning more about PowerUp, feel free to reach out either at info@powerupsponsors.com or directly to me on LinkedIn. Might be the easiest way through here. But this has been a real privilege for me as well, just getting to meet you and some of your team. And I think it's great what you're doing, and I hope you guys continue to do it. And thank you for asking me to be a part of it. And, happy to support.
Thank you for accepting. It was a pleasure talking to everyone who is here. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And good luck to your team.
Thank you. So, guys, you have one more podcast this week on Friday with Christy. So, see you on Friday, guys. Bye bye.